The email came at 11:47 p.m. on a Monday, and it destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. I'm filing for divorce. Please respect my space. 13 words. That's all Eliza gave me after 11 years of marriage. No explanation, no conversation, no warning, just a cold, corporate kiss-off that read like a form letter. I sat in my home office in our suburban Connecticut house, staring at the screen until the words blurred. The desk lamp cast shadows across the walls, and outside, the October wind rattled the windows like something trying to get in. Respect her space. That line stuck in my head like a splinter. I'm Marcus Hale, 38 years old, recently graduated from law school after leaving my engineering career behind. I'd spent the last 3 years buried in contracts and case law while Eliza climbed the corporate ladder at a marketing firm downtown. We had a plan, or at least I thought we did. I'd finish school, pass the bar, and we'd finally start the family we'd been postponing. Turns out, she had different plans. I read the email again, searching for something I'd missed. There was nothing. No anger, no regret, just sterile detachment. This wasn't spontaneous. This was calculated. My phone buzzed. A text from my friend Nina. "You up? Need to talk." Nina Price was the one person who'd stuck with me through law school hell. We'd met at a tech conference years ago when I was still designing circuit boards, and she'd somehow tolerated my sarcasm ever since. She worked in cybersecurity, which meant she knew things about digital footprints that most people never considered. I called her. "Tell me you didn't just get dumped by email," Nina said without preamble. "How did you—" Eliza posted something cryptic on Instagram 20 minutes ago. New beginnings with a sunset emoji. I figured it wasn't good. I laughed, but it came out bitter. She wants a divorce. Didn't even have the guts to say it to my face. Jesus, Marcus, I'm sorry. Nina paused. You okay? Define okay. Fair point. Listen, I'm coming over. Don't do anything stupid before I get there. She hung up before I could argue. I forwarded Eliza's email to the attorney I'd been consulting for a property case. Seemed like I'd need him for something else now. Then I opened our joint bank account. My stomach dropped. The balance showed 847s. 3 weeks ago, it had been $34,000. Our savings account was completely empty. Eliza had cleaned us out. I sat back, and something shifted in my chest. Not grief. Not yet. Something colder. I'd spent 3 years learning how the law worked, how systems could be manipulated, how people protected themselves. Eliza had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought I was the same passive engineer who'd let her make all the decisions. She didn't know what I'd become. I changed the locks first, called a 24-hour locksmith, and paid extra for immediate service. By 1:30 a.m., new deadbolts were installed on every door. I canceled our joint credit cards, filed fraud reports for the missing money, and set up alerts on every account with my name on it. Nina arrived at 2 a.m. with coffee and a laptop bag. You look terrible, she said, pushing past me into the house. Thanks. You're a real confidence boost. She sat up at the kitchen table, opening her laptop with the efficiency of someone preparing for surgery. Okay, walk me through everything. I told her about the email, the money, the sudden coldness that had been building for months. As I talked, I started remembering things I'd ignored. Late-night phone calls she'd taken in the car, weekend networking events that never seemed to involve actual networking, the way she'd started dressing differently, spending more on clothes and makeup. How long do you think it's been going on? Nina asked. I don't know. Months, maybe. I was so focused on finishing school that I stopped. Wait. There was something. I pulled up our credit card history, the one I hadn't canceled yet because it was in my name only, but Eliza had an authorized user card. There were charges from restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in Manhattan, expensive gifts I'd never seen, all from the last 6 months. She wasn't even trying to hide it, Nina muttered, scrolling through the transactions. She thought you wouldn't check. She was right. Until now. Nina looked at me with something between pity and respect. So what do you want to do? I thought about the 3 years I'd spent in law school while Eliza complained about me not contributing enough, about the nights I'd stayed up studying while she went out with work friends, about every sacrifice I'd made because I believed we were building something together. I want to know who he is, I said, and then I want to make sure she regrets every single decision that led to this moment. Nina nodded slowly. I can help with the first part. The second part is up to you. Fair enough. She turned back to her laptop. Give me access to your cloud storage and social media. I'll pull everything. Photos, location data, metadata. If she's been seeing someone, we'll find him. I handed over passwords, and Nina went to work. I made more coffee and tried to process what was happening. 12 hours ago, I'd been planning to surprise Eliza with tickets to a show she'd mentioned wanting to see. Now I was conducting digital surveillance on my own wife, ex-wife, almost ex-wife. By dawn, Nina had a name, Cole Dawson. He's all over her location history, Nina said, pointing at a map covered in overlapping pins. This address in Soho shows up constantly. I cross-referenced it with property records. He owns a condo there. Age 37, works in finance, divorced 2 years ago. How do you know all this? LinkedIn, property records, and some creative searching. He's not subtle. Posts constantly about his lifestyle, expensive restaurants, vacation photos, gym selfies. Total narcissist. She pulled up his profile. Cole Dawson had the kind of face that got away with things. Square jaw, perfect hair, teeth too white to be natural. His bio read, living life to the fullest. No regrets. I know this guy, I said suddenly. Nina frowned. How? Eliza mentioned him once, maybe a year ago. Said she'd run into her college ex at some conference. Said it was awkward but nice to catch up. That's him. Her college ex. Nina whistled. And she's been seeing him for 6 months. This wasn't random. I stared at Cole's smug face on the screen. He looked like someone who'd never faced real consequences, someone who thought charm and money could solve any problem. I'd spent my whole life being underestimated. The quiet engineer, the older law student, the guy who didn't make waves. People like Cole always assumed people like me would just fold. They were always wrong. I need to see this for myself, I said. Marcus, I'm not going to do anything stupid. I just need to see. Nina studied me for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, but I'm coming with you, and we're staying in the car. Just surveillance. Wednesday afternoon, I followed Eliza's location on the tracking app we'd both installed years ago, originally for safety, now for something else entirely. She'd told me she had meetings downtown all day, but her phone placed her at a cafe in Greenwich Village. Nina drove. I sat in the passenger seat with a camera, feeling ridiculous and justified in equal measure. We parked half a block down, and I watched the cafe entrance through a zoom lens. Eliza arrived at 3:15, wearing a dress I'd never seen before, red, fitted, expensive. She looked around nervously before going inside. 10 minutes later, Cole Dawson walked up, and the nerves vanished. Her whole face changed when she saw him, lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. They kissed on the sidewalk, not a friendly peck, a real kiss, the kind that made people look away. Then they walked together toward the subway, hands intertwined, laughing about something I'd never be part of. I took pictures of everything. You okay? Nina asked quietly. No, I said, but I will be. That evening, Eliza came home like nothing had happened. She walked past me in the kitchen without a word, went upstairs, and took a shower. I listened to the water running and thought about all the times I'd believed her lies. Every late meeting, every networking event, every time she'd come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When she came back downstairs wrapped in a robe, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop. We need to talk, she said. No, We don't. You said everything in your email. She flinched slightly. Marcus, don't be childish. This doesn't have to be ugly. You stole $30,000 from our accounts and sent me a divorce notice by email. It's already ugly. I didn't steal anything. That money was joint property, which you drained to fund your affair. Yeah, I know about Cole. Her face went pale. How? Doesn't matter. What matters is that you're going to sign whatever divorce agreement my attorney sends over, and you're going to do it quietly. Because if you don't, every single person in your office, your family, and your social media circle is going to know exactly what kind of person you are. You wouldn't. I met her eyes. Try me. She stood there for a moment, looking like she wanted to say something, then turned and went back upstairs. I heard her on the phone, voice sharp and panicked, probably calling Cole. Good. Let her panic. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, office barbecue tomorrow. Eliza had insisted we both go, said it was important for networking. I'd agreed before the email, but now the thought of standing around making small talk while my wife paraded her ambitions made my skin crawl. Then again, maybe it was an opportunity. The next day, I showed up at Eliza's company barbecue alone. The event was held at some executive's sprawling backyard in Westport, complete with catered food and an open bar. I'd texted Eliza that morning, "Going to the barbecue. You can skip it." She didn't respond. I arrived fashionably late, poured myself a bourbon, and tried to blend into the background. Eliza's co-workers were the usual corporate crowd, overly friendly, performatively enthusiastic, eyes always calculating who was worth talking to. I'd always hated these things. Then Eliza arrived. She spotted me immediately, and her expression cycled through surprise, anger, and something like fear. She was with Cole. They'd come together to her company event, where everyone knew she was married. The audacity was almost impressive. "Marcus," she said, walking over with Cole trailing behind like a trained dog. "I didn't think you'd come. You invited me, remember? Said it was important." Cole extended his hand. "Cole Dawson. I don't think we've met." I looked at his hand like it was something I'd scraped off my shoe. "I know exactly who you are." The smile faltered. Eliza grabbed Cole's arm. "We should get some food." "Yeah," I said. "You two do that." They walked away, and I watched several co-workers exchange glances. They weren't stupid. The tension was obvious. Good. Let them wonder. A woman approached me, Sarah, one of Eliza's colleagues I'd met at a previous event. She was early 30s, sharp dresser, confident smile. "That looked uncomfortable," she said. "You have no idea." "Want to make it more uncomfortable? Dance with me." I laughed. "I don't dance." "Neither do I. But your wife is watching and she looks stressed." I glanced over. Eliza was staring at us, jaw tight. Cole was talking to someone else, oblivious. "You know what?" I said. "Why not?" Sarah and I spent the next 20 minutes talking and laughing, making a show of enjoying ourselves. It was petty, but watching Eliza's discomfort was the first thing that had felt good in days. Sarah was funny, easy to talk to, and clearly enjoyed being part of whatever drama was unfolding. "So," she said eventually, "are you two getting divorced, or is this some weird open marriage thing?" "The first one." "Her loss," Sarah said, and she sounded like she meant it. Before I left, Eliza cornered me by the gate. "What are you doing?" "Having a conversation. Is that illegal now?" "You're embarrassing yourself." "Really? Because from where I'm standing, you're the one who brought your boyfriend to a company event while still married. But hey, what do I know?" Her face flushed. "This is exactly why I'm leaving you. You're petty and jealous and—" "Leaving? You already left. You just didn't bother to tell me until you'd secured your backup plan." "Cole isn't a backup plan. I love him." The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, I felt nothing. Just cold calculation. Good, I said. Hold on to that. You're going to need it. I walked away, and for the first time since the email, I felt like I was in control. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept scrolling through Eliza's social media, watching her craft a narrative of independence and self-discovery. She'd posted a photo from the barbecue, her and Cole smiling like they'd invented happiness. The caption read, "Sometimes you have to choose your own joy." The comments were full of supportive friends who had no idea what they were supporting. I saved screenshots of everything. Then I saw something that made my stomach twist in fear. A post from 3 days ago, geotagged at a luxury hotel in Manhattan. Eliza and Cole, wrapped in matching robes, champagne glasses raised. The caption, "Weekend Getaway." That was our money. The money she'd drained from our accounts had paid for that room, that champagne, that smug smile on Cole's face. I forwarded the screenshot to my attorney with a simple message, evidence of asset misappropriation. Then I texted Nina, "I need your help. Time to step this up." She called immediately. "What's the plan?" "I want to know everything. Where they go, who they see, what they spend. I want their whole world documented." "That's going to take time." "I've got nothing but time." Nina was quiet for a moment. "You sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back." I thought about Eliza's smile in that hotel photo, about Cole's hand on her waist, about the 11 years I'd given to someone who could throw it away for a luxury weekend and a college ex with better hair. "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure." "All right. Meet me tomorrow morning. Bring coffee." I hung up and looked at the photo one more time. They looked so happy, so certain they'd gotten away with something. They had no idea what was coming. Nina's apartment smelled like energy drinks and electronic equipment. She'd cleared her entire dining table, covered it with monitors and keyboards, and transformed it into a command center that would have impressed a government agency. "Tell me you didn't hack anything illegal," I said, setting down the coffee. "Define illegal." "Nina, relax. Everything I'm showing you is from public records, social media, and information you already have legal access to. I'm just organizing it efficiently." She pulled up a timeline on the main monitor, every meeting, every charge, every location where Eliza and Cole had intersected for the past 8 months. It was damning and thorough. "They've been careful," Nina said, "but not careful enough. Look at this." She zoomed in on a cluster of charges from June. Hotel rooms, restaurants, even a weekend trip to the Berkshires, all funded from the joint account I'd barely monitored. How did I miss this? You weren't looking. You trusted her. That's not a character flaw, Marcus. That's just what normal people do in relationships. Normal people don't drain bank accounts to fund affairs. True. Nina pulled up another screen. "Here's where it gets interesting. Cole's been having money problems. His divorce settlement cleaned him out, and his spending habits haven't adjusted. Look at his credit cards." The statement showed maxed out cards and missed payments. Cole Dawson, the finance guy who posted about luxury vacations, was drowning in debt. "He's using Eliza," I said, "or she's using him, or they're using each other. Either way, this isn't a romance. It's two people trying to level up using each other's resources." I thought about Eliza's sudden interest in expensive clothes and trendy restaurants. She'd always been ambitious, but this was different. This was desperate. "They're planning something," I said. "Another trip, maybe. Something big." Nina nodded. "I've been monitoring their email metadata, not reading it, just tracking patterns. There's been a spike in airline and hotel searches, Puerto Rico specifically. I think they're planning to leave soon." "How soon?" "Could be weeks. Could be days." I sat back, processing. If they left the country, even temporarily, it would complicate everything. I needed to act now, while they were still in reach, still confident. "Can you track them in real time?" I asked. "If they're using phones, yes. But Marcus, you need to be careful. Surveillance is one thing, but if you cross certain lines, I'm not going to do anything that'll get me arrested. I just passed the bar exam. I'm not throwing that away. Good. Because revenge is only satisfying if you're not in jail. Over the next 2 days, I fell into a rhythm. I'd wake up, check Nina's reports, go to the gym, then spend hours planning. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was methodical. Every action had to be calculated, legal, and devastating. I started with small things. Anonymous tips to Cole's employer about expense report irregularities. A casual mention to Eliza's HR department about personal use of company resources. Nothing direct, nothing traceable, just seeds planted in fertile ground. On Friday, I followed Cole to his gym in Manhattan. I watched him park his BMW, the one he definitely couldn't afford, in the underground garage. When he went inside, I walked past the car and accidentally dragged my keys along the driver's side. Not deep enough to be obviously intentional, just enough to be annoying and expensive to fix. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? More than it should have been. That evening, Nina called with news. They booked flights. Monday morning, 6 a.m. departure from JFK to San Juan. 4 days, resort stay, round trip. Using what money? She took out a cash advance on a new credit card. $5,000. The interest rate is going to kill her, but I guess she doesn't care. I smiled. Or she thinks she'll be able to pay it off with the divorce settlement. Which brings me to my next point. Your attorney called my phone. I gave him my number as your contact. He said Eliza's lawyer sent over their proposal. She wants the house, the car, and half your future earnings for 3 years. She wants what? Yeah. Her argument is that she supported you through law school, so she's entitled to the benefits. The rage came back, hot and immediate. I'd worked part-time throughout school, taken out loans, bled myself dry to finish my degree. Eliza had contributed, sure, but support. She'd complained every day about my lack of income, about how I wasn't pulling my weight, about how her career was suffering because I was always studying. She's not getting any of that, I said. Then you need to file first and fast. Beat her to the courthouse with your own terms. Include evidence of her affair and the asset drain. Make her fight from a defensive position. I need my attorney to file Monday morning before they get on that plane. Consider it done. I'll send him everything we have. Sunday night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept imagining Eliza and Cole at the airport, excited about their stolen vacation, thinking they'd won. I wanted to be there when reality hit them, wanted to see the moment they realized I wasn't the passive victim they'd expected. So I went. JFK at 4 a.m. was a special kind of purgatory. Fluorescent lights, stale air, travelers shuffling through security like zombies. I bought a coffee, found a seat with a clear view of the check-in counters, and waited. They arrived at 4:45, laughing about something, pulling matching luggage. Eliza wore sunglasses even though it was barely dawn, and Cole had his arm around her waist like he owned her. They looked like an advertisement for midlife crisis tourism. I watched them check in, watched them head toward security. Then I made my move. I walked past them, close enough to be noticed, far enough to seem accidental. Eliza saw me first. Her face went through every stage of shock. Marcus, what are you... Just traveling, I said casually. Funny running into you here. Where are you headed? That's none of your business. Cole stepped forward, chest puffed out. Hey man, maybe you should... Maybe I should what? Take a vacation? Good idea. I looked at Eliza. How's the cash advance treating you? That interest rate is brutal. Her face went white. How do you... I know everything. Every charge, every lie, every cheap hotel room you paid for with our money. And tomorrow morning, when you land in San Juan, you're going to get some interesting emails from my attorney. Just a heads up. You can't... I already did. Enjoy your trip. Hope it's worth it. I walked away, leaving them standing there, their perfect vacation suddenly complicated. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The devastation on Eliza's face was already burned into my memory. Back home, I waited. Nina texted updates. They'd boarded the plane, they'd landed in Puerto Rico, they'd checked into their resort, and then, right on schedule, my attorney filed. The divorce petition included everything: evidence of adultery, documentation of asset misappropriation, a demand for return of all marital funds, and a request for reimbursement of legal fees. It also included a motion to freeze any remaining joint assets and a request for emergency orders preventing further dissipation of marital property. Eliza's attorney called my phone directly at 11 a.m. "Mr. Hale, we need to talk about your filing." "So, talk." "These allegations are inflammatory and unnecessary. We can resolve this amicably without dragging personal matters into. Your client stole $30,000 to fund her affair, then tried to demand alimony from the person she cheated on. There's nothing amicable here. She's prepared to fight this." "Good. Discovery should be fun. I've got hotel receipts, text messages, location data, and social media posts. How much of her personal life does she want exposed in court?" Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "Tell her to sign the counter-proposal or get comfortable with public humiliation." I hung up, feeling like I'd finally taken a real breath. That evening, I drove past Eliza's office. It was after hours, but security cameras never sleep. I'd left an envelope with HR that morning, anonymous, untraceable, containing printouts of Eliza's expense reports, alongside photos of her and Cole at locations she'd claimed were business meetings. I didn't know if anything would come of it, but planting doubt was its own reward. On Tuesday, Nina called with interesting news. Cole's car got towed. What? Unpaid parking tickets. Turns out he had about $2,000 worth that he'd been ignoring. Someone, and I'm not saying who, might have sent an anonymous tip to parking enforcement about where his car was usually parked. I laughed. That's beautiful. It gets better. His credit cards are declining. I think his bank finally caught up with his cash advance pattern and froze his accounts pending fraud investigation. Did you? I submitted a fraud report citing suspicious activity patterns. Completely legal. Anyone could have done it. You're terrifying. I know. Oh, and Eliza tried to withdraw money from an ATM in San Juan. Her card was declined. Seems like the court's asset freeze went through faster than expected. I imagined Eliza standing at an ATM in paradise, watching her card get rejected, realizing that everything she'd taken was now out of reach. The satisfaction was almost overwhelming. They're going to come back broke and angry, I said. That's the idea. Wednesday afternoon, my attorney called. We got a response. She's willing to negotiate. What are her terms? She drops the alimony demand, accepts a 50-50 split of remaining assets, and you both walk away. Clean break. No, she returns every dollar she took, accepts full responsibility for marital debt, and gets nothing from me. That's the deal. Marcus, that's aggressive. A judge might not. Then we go to trial. I've got evidence, she's got excuses. Let's see how that plays out. He sighed. I'll relay the message. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Cole. The anonymous tips to his employer, the towed car, the frozen accounts, it was all adding up, but it wasn't enough. He'd walked away from his own marriage, targeted mine, and now he was probably comforting Eliza while blaming me for their problems. I pulled up his LinkedIn profile. His company was listed, his email format was obvious. I composed a message from a burner account, pretending to be a potential client asking about his financial planning services. I asked pointed questions about his approach to marital assets, his experience with complex portfolios, his track record. He responded within an hour, eager and professional. I sent a follow-up asking for references from divorced clients. He got defensive, said that was confidential information. I forwarded the entire exchange to his compliance department with a note. Received this from someone claiming to work for your firm. Seemed concerning given the ethical implications. Thought you should know. Would anything come of it? Maybe not. But Cole would spend the next few weeks paranoid, watching his back, wondering who was asking questions. Exactly where I wanted him. I'm not trying to be the victim, I just want this to be over. Then you should have thought about that before you and Cole started plotting behind my back, I replied. My voice was calm, but the anger was still simmering under the surface. You drained our accounts, lied to me, and betrayed me with him. Now, you'll have to deal with the consequences. There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear her struggling to hold it together. You're not going to let this go, are you? Not until I make sure you don't walk away from this unscathed. You've taken everything I've worked for, Eliza. My trust, my savings, my dignity. You think I'll just let that slide? She exhaled sharply, her voice cracking. I never meant for any of this to happen. Don't give me that, I snapped. You didn't make one mistake. You made dozens, and you'll answer for each and every one of them. I'm sorry, she said, almost pleading. I didn't mean to hurt you, Marcus. I didn't respond. The damage had been done. Apologies wouldn't fix it. Goodbye, Eliza, I said, the finality in my voice making her go silent for a moment. Don't call me again. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair, letting out a long breath. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to dive into the next stage of my plan. I had spent the last few days setting the pieces in motion, but it was time to escalate the pressure. The next morning, I had everything ready. Eliza thought she could hide behind her work and the safety of her apartment with Cole. She thought she could play it off like nothing had happened. She thought she could get away with it. But she was wrong. I parked a few blocks away from the Airbnb in Brooklyn. The place was tucked in a quiet corner of the neighborhood, surrounded by warehouses and narrow streets. It wasn't much, but it was enough for them to lay low for a while. I checked my watch, 10:15 a.m., and moved quickly. The last thing I wanted was to give them time to prepare. I knew Cole's schedule by heart. Gym in the morning, lunch with clients, then back to the apartment for a few hours before Eliza arrived. It was time to visit the neighbors again. I walked into the building, head held high, like I belonged. The superintendent was sitting on a bench near the elevator reading the newspaper. I nodded at him. He didn't pay me much attention, too wrapped up in whatever article he was reading. I had all the necessary information now. Cole was breaking his lease. That was the weakness I needed. Hey, I said casually, stopping a few feet from him. I heard you might be dealing with some issues in this building, about the tenants. I wanted to check in, see how things were going. The superintendent looked up from his paper. He recognized me. You're the guy asking about the garden unit last week. Yeah, that's right. Have you heard anything more about the complaints? I'm just curious, really. I don't want to rent in a place with problems. Yeah, he muttered. The Airbnb tenants are causing trouble, breaking the rules. Too many guests coming and going. The landlord's had enough. Gonna kick 'em out soon. Really? I asked, feigning surprise. That's interesting. Yeah, he said, shrugging. They haven't been the best tenants, but you didn't hear it from me. I dropped a $50 bill onto his lap. Thanks. I appreciate it. I walked out of the building feeling a rush of satisfaction. Step 1 was complete. Now I had leverage. I sent an email to the building management outlining Cole's lease violation, all while making sure to mention that I was considering renting an apartment in the building, but had concerns about illegal activity. I included the necessary details about the lease and short-term rental policy. That evening, I got the confirmation email. Cole's lease was under review. They had given him 5 days to vacate. I didn't waste any time. The following morning, I was at Cole's office again. He had no idea what was coming. I walked into the lobby of his company's building in Midtown, and my suit was sharp, my posture perfect. I looked like every other professional trying to climb the corporate ladder. At least, I hoped I did. I approached the receptionist and said, I have a meeting with Cole Dawson. I think it's a portfolio review. The receptionist looked at her computer and then back at me, clearly confused. I don't have any meetings scheduled for him today. I feigned surprise. Are you sure? I came all the way from Connecticut. I can just check my phone and send him a message. She hesitated, looking at me with doubt in her eyes, but after a moment, she picked up the phone. I could see her frown deepening as she spoke. After a brief exchange, she put the receiver down. He says he doesn't have any appointments for today, she told me, looking uncertain. I'm sorry, but I can't let you up. No problem. I'll just email him, I said, turning away with a smile. Thanks for your time. I stepped out of the building, feeling the rush of power. I had left Cole wondering who the hell was trying to visit him. It was a small thing, but it planted a seed of anxiety. He wouldn't know who it was, but he'd be paranoid for the rest of the day. That was the game now. Constant pressure. That night, I received another call from Eliza. This time, she was clearly desperate. Please, Marcus, just stop. This is too much. I'm not stopping, Eliza, I said, my voice cold. You made your choices, and now you deal with them. She stammered for a moment, as if trying to come up with something else to say. You don't understand. Cole and I... Don't. Just don't. I cut her off. You're not the victim here. You've made a mess, and now you'll clean it up. There was silence on the other end, and then a small, defeated voice. What do you want? I want everything, I said. I want you to feel the full weight of your betrayal, and I want Cole to know I'm the one pulling the strings. I ended the call and let out a breath, feeling a strange satisfaction settle over me. This was it, the moment where everything would begin to collapse for them. By the next morning, Eliza's world was already starting to crumble. She called me again, this time sounding more frantic. I don't know how to fix this. The apartment's been flagged for eviction. My accounts are frozen. The pressure is too much. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you started lying, stealing, and betraying the one person who actually cared for you. Marcus, please, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my fingers on the desk. You made a choice, Eliza, and now you get to deal with the consequences. The next few days passed in a blur of escalating tension. Eliza and Cole were scrambling. Their lives were unraveling in ways they hadn't prepared for, and I was the one holding all the cards. I wasn't done yet. I still had more moves to make, but for now I waited. Let them sweat. The worst was yet to come.